Welcome to CivilNet. 2013 was a year full of challenges, hopes, disappointments, small victories, and memorable moments for the Armenian people. 22 years into our independence, the Republic of Armenia and Armenians, while registering some successes, continue to struggle with a multitude of challenges and difficulties. In the midst of the chaos and uncertainty in our lives, there are those who live and work and serve by example, sometimes visibly, but usually under the radar. They are hidden people. They are our people. They represent only a few of the talented, focused, dedicated, and professional people in our country and in our lives. They are writing a new narrative of what it means to be an Armenian in the 21st century. Some of them might even be the game changers. It has been a privilege for me to have interviewed them. Here are some of the memorable moments from 2013. So sit back and join me on a journey of discovery of the hidden people of Armenia.
If we look with fresh eye to Armenia, it's a much more potential.
Absolutely.
It's much more potential in Armenia what you can do.
Because there's so much unbroken ground here.
Exactly. Only the thing you must look not standard way.
Yes.
If you have a dream, you have to fight for it. You have to go directly to that one. The idea was to create Egyptology in a country which is also mine. That is, I'm born in France.
You're French citizen?
Yes, absolutely. I'm French as well. I'm also a superior officer of the French Navy, which very little.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. How does that happen? But okay,
and I'm still, as I speak.
Okay.
And that also I've never said, and the Navy knows very well that I'm here. But the fact is, I'm also Armenian and very proud to be. And I landed here without a real preparation, really. It was more a test to be able to see if it could be done.
25 years I was principal dancer with National Ballet, dancing everything, all the leading roles and all the classical repertoire. Freedom or something was, kind of hope was in me that Armenia will become the independent and Armenia will do whatever needs Armenia, not only being a part and cornered in that big country. So the country was, we didn't realize that being alone as an independent country will have a lot of problems.
Sure.
We were, the first ambassadors of Armenia. We were treating ourselves as the first ambassadors. And we told them, like everybody, all of the nationalities that we met on the way, we were talking about Armenia. Lots of people never heard about Armenia. So it was good. We had a personal
mission.
Mission completed now.
That's good. That's good.
Skillfully.
But we were looking at this thing as more as an adventure. I mean, we were thinking that even if we don't get to the base camp, but we're enjoying the we're enjoying the culture,
the experience.
I mean, this beauty, everything. It's just it's unforgettable. The first lifetime avalanche. I mean, things that will never.
I've always had the opportunity to move abroad and develop my future there, but there has never been any second that I saw myself in another country rather than Armenia. Whatever happens, I'm quite sure that I will stay here in Armenia because people like me and my friends are the ones that can make the change. That have the courage. That have the courage to stand for their rights and for their beliefs.
See, when I look back, I see that only thing we have is a history. It seems like we don't have present, we don't have a future. But when I look at our history, I am sure that if we want to change something, we can, because we have that potential. It's like it is in our blood. We can do that because history shows that we can do it.
We want it to be recognized in terms like when you see something, you don't necessarily know who made it, where it was made. You can say, oh, it's Japanese. Right. Oh, this is African. This looks Mexican. This looks Indian. There is no such thing as Armenian, especially in your interior.
I think that's spectacular. It's about branding Armenian culture to a global audience, to a global market.
Yes.
And it is possible to do. we can break down those barriers that we have in our minds, those borders that we have in our minds because we're so small as a people. But being small, you can explode onto the international scene?
I don't think about possibilities. I just do it.
You just do it.
I gave a lot, but I received a lot from them as well, a lot. And I'm very thankful to every single student that I have, the little ones, that they give me the joy and happiness, the energy, and the big ones, the university students, that they gave a lot of energy from me. Yes. And, but I'm working so hard for them, and I hope in 4 years' time they would realize that I put a lot of effort just for them to see their success and their happiness.
Yesterday we were in the Duster-Milan dairy cheese producing company in Tashir with the US Ambassador John Heffer. Again, when first we visited this company, there was just one room, 500 liters of milk and 3 people working, 2 brothers and wife of one of them. Today is one of the biggest and best cheese producer in Caucasus.
In the Caucasus?
In the Caucasus. I'm not talking about Armenia. If you go, that cheese plant, you may think, oh, some oligarch came here.
Really? But it was just a small family thing.
It is a family business. They grow up from one room operation, 500 liters of milk processed.
And today, how many liters of milk?
In the season, it's more than 20,000 liters.
What does this mean for Armenia, having this kind of an institute? Why is it important that we think about support and try to develop further these kinds of endeavors?
Yeah. Number one, you know, this organization is one of the top 5 in the world.
This one
for
here?
This kind of research.
Really?
This one here. And it is the best in the world for ground-based research. So people do cosmic ray research from different venues, including from satellites, including from ships in the Arctic Ocean and so on. But from ground-based research, Armenia is the best. We have infrastructure that doesn't exist anywhere else. In fact, they are now building some networks on other mountains in other countries, but they don't have the housekeeping facilities. For example, they have detectors and everything. They control them from below, but if something breaks, they have to drive up to get.
It's amazing. It's amazing for me to hear this.
Yeah, it's people don't know. I didn't know myself.
There is one condition that I write. I mean, don't cross ever the line that you'll think that you're not comfortable in Armenia, because I want them to be part of change. I want them to make that change. Because being away and complaining about the situation is not the shortcut. It's not the shortcut to solution. It's not the shortcut to the way out. So I always encourage them. Of course, you have to study abroad. Of course, if you have decided that it's your choice, I really encourage them to go and study. But you have a certain, I wouldn't say duty, but you have a certain obligations. You have to give it back. Your experience, at least share those years that you have studied in Armenia, and then it's up to you how you construct your future.
So for me, moving to Armenia is several things. First of all, is the quality of life and the essence of life. It might be a little bit more provincial, it might be a little bit different, but I have the most important thing here, which I don't have in Moscow. It's time.
With your family?
In general terms, time with your family, at work, as a social activist, it doesn't matter. You have time to live. You're not a part of a consumptionist world in that sense as it is in Moscow, for example. So you earn a lot of money, then you get a mortgage, you buy another flat, then another car, and then suddenly you realize that your kid is not Armenian by his identity, but his behavior is different. And you can't influence on him. You can't just tell him some theoretical stories or stories about your past or the genocide or whatever it is. Yeah, of course.
It was a joy to work with Armenian students. It was, in my teaching, I use case study methods. And one of the case study methods I used with my American students is very, very technical. It's a Harvard case study program, very challenging, very technical. Armenian students chewed through it memorized and studied, understood every single detail. They kept asking for more. So that side, I think my teaching, I would say, had two dimensions. Administratively, it was a challenge. You kind of had to do the paperwork, excessive paperwork, sort of this faceless bureaucracy. You had to deal with that. But then once I was in a classroom, I knew that I had the freedom to do what I wanted. Diaspora is a wonderful resource. First of all, it is a resource of professionals. And I don't think we're utilizing that resource efficiently. I don't follow sports very closely. However, the way our soccer team operates, they bring in the best players from all over the world. And I kept thinking after their recent victory, and I'm thinking we really need to have a club like that for physicists, for political scientists, for researchers, for educators, for people who are working in the agricultural sector, you name it.
And we started to make movies to tell the people what we have and why it's so important to protect. Because Armenia is very unique in its biodiversity. It's a very tiny country, although if you compare with other countries, like in 1 square kilometer, there are 100 times more species, animals, fauna and flora together, that you can, you know that Armenia is one of the 34, there are all in all 34 biodiversity hotspots in the world.
I think the IT field is the unique with that of perspective, because for the IT field, the people who is working in that field, they can achieve the big results, even if they are living in a country with the closed borders or in a country where it's not much developed. But for having the good results, we need to bring some innovation to Armenia. Like Armenians who are working abroad, they need to bring that culture to here. We're in a small country, but we can play with many mentality. We can be Russian mentality, we understand American mentality, we understand European mentality, Persian mentality. Having the huge diaspora teach us to think in many mentality. So that was a very big advantage for my company, for me as a filmmaker.
I think after all, when you dig into some problems that we have, eventually you come to the problem of Artagaht. You know, the word emigration, it doesn't really have this kind of emotional... Yeah, I mean, Artagaht, when you say Artagaht, this Armenian word, it has a stronger meaning, you know, than emigration or migration. So I think you always come to that, and it's destroying society in many ways that we don't... I mean, one thing is obvious, you know, there are less people, but also society is becoming more fragmented because of that, because every person, it's not just, you know, a number. This is a person who has social links, you know, there are people gathered around him or her, so when this person leaves, it means that also links are broken between other people who were linked through this person. And I would say that this is what bothers me most.
When I think of whether Armenia is going to be significantly different or what it's going to be like in 10 years or 15 or 20 years, I don't know. It's uncertainty. It's not that there's a downside risk, but it's an uncertainty which is marred by a lot of outside factors, which is marred by a lot of realities that often lie outside of our control, but many of them do lie within our control. But the pace of change at which those things are happening doesn't help me to understand where we're going to be in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, at what's the most optimal scenario, if you will, in 20 years, what's the worst scenario in 20 years. The worst is pretty obvious, but the optimally, you know, we could, you know, I'm still hopeful. I'm optimistic about the future, but I don't see how that breakthrough is going to happen, how as a society we're going to change. Now again, there are a lot of hopeful signs in just the last 5 years that weren't there 5 years ago. That absolutely, I mean, technology is changing everything, young people are changing everything.
The country for me, I came back, it's kind of boiling. Still boiling, and we have to give direction to this energy, because otherwise it will explode or go to the wrong way. now it's time to make very clear direction for everything.
We must think about the next generation.
Of course.
Well, we should be very careful then to be able to sustain these people. And this is a common problem in university. Many scholars here come and say, my student has just left for Canada. Armenians have their own ways of doing things, which is sometimes very slow in a way. But we have another few progresses this week. We saw a few improvements which come just like that.
But at the moment the state is not ready. So we can either sit like this for another 100 years, if history allows us to sit for 100 years. That's a big question, because from my point of view and point of view of my friends, we have 20, 30 years time till the next, let's say, checkpoint. If we are ready, if we are strong enough, then let's say we will survive and we will continue developing as a country. If not, we might be in a very big danger. In order to avoid that danger, we need to work today. Even we were supposed to start working before.
I think culturally there's always been this tendency that as Armenians we have a lot to give to the world. And I mean, as people, I don't know, to me we've been acting as catalysts between different cultures throughout centuries. And I don't think that role necessarily has changed today in a way, but it's become much less prominent.
I feel that I have to do something, because all this knowledge, all this experience I have now after living there for 20 years, I have to give back to my country.
What is going to be the game changer in Armenia?
Well, there can be several game changers. So. And some of them don't depend on us, geopolitical changes, which will happen sooner or later. But I think what could change things a lot, if there was a wave of diasporans, both old diasporans from the West or Middle East, or new diasporans from Russia and the former Soviet states, if there was a wave of people coming back, this could break this kind of cycle.
It's hard and it's very easy. I don't know, I can't feel like this in any other countries all over the world. There's something that sometimes I just think I have to leave. I can't stay here anymore. This is the end. Finish. And then as soon as I sleep and wake up in the morning, it's a new day, it's a new journey. It's something about Armenia. I think everybody has got this feeling.
Thank you that you came. Thank for everything that you do, because I watch your shows and I see the people you're interviewing. They're not the people that everybody talks about. They are the people that they have to be talked about.
Yes.
They are very, very talented and they are really hidden.
Yes.
They have to be uncovered.
Thank you.
And you
Thank
do
you.
that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.